So what's the solution? It's the good old days of private business and accountability. We must go back to this. Or to quote the immortal Benjamin Franklin as he spoke to his colleagues who were signing the Declaration of Independence, we must all hang together, or assuredly we will all hang separately. Business models that work reward things when the team does well. Take Bloomberg Communications as an example. This is one of the premier financial information organizations founded by Michael Bloomberg, who's the current mayor of New York. He sat on an ordinary desk on an open floor, as did all of his senior executives and junior executives, down to the lowest rank-and-file reporter. He also structured his compensation packages so that they were spread over time. So there was money held back. So if you eventually found out after a period of time that an executive made a decision that was not in the best interests of the company, there was money that could be pulled off the table. Wall Street also had this structure in place. When Wall Street was primarily consisting of private partnerships, of which I worked at one, Morgan Stanley on that day, was privately owned. It was a far different structure. Becoming a partner in these organizations, an owner, so to speak, was considered to be the path to long-term success and wealth. However, it did not necessarily result in short-term gains. As a matter of fact, if you went from being a vice president to a partner in the organization, oftentimes your cash compensation actually went down because you were using that money to buy into the partnership at book value, not at an inflated value or at a bargain price. Also, since all your capital was tied up in the business, there was a paranoid preoccupation with risk. How do we extend dealing with this FreePasser epidemic in our organizations today? First, you must teach values, what your company stands for. You should have a mission statement, a series of corporate values. Because no matter what happens in your organization, you cannot monitor each of your employees every second. They have to have a roadmap, a guide, so to speak, as to how to behave when no one is watching. We must allow the capitalist system to work, even in our own organizations. This is a natural way of pruning out the low performers. But don't reward short-term gains over long-term performance. We must remake corporate culture into an all-for-one and one-for-all type situation, an interconnected matrix. You also must create similar incentives throughout the company from the top down to establish a long-term meritocracy. Management must lead by example. A good example is FedEx limited compensation to senior management as well as the rank and file in this current economic environment. We've seen this with Walmart, where senior executives, including senior management, share a room, because that is corporate policy for the organization. And they say it must be one policy as opposed to two policies, one for senior executives and one for the rest of the company. I know this is an incredibly painful time in our country's history and in many of our business environments. I've heard from several of you that this recession is like none that we've experienced before. However, if there is a silver lining, it is this, that sometimes a precarious position helps us to focus on problems which need to be solved. Vulnerability is the precursor to change. Or to quote that immortal writer, Samuel Johnson, when a man is to be hanged in a fortnight, it concentrates his mind wonderfully. In this way, perhaps we can deal with this FreePasser epidemic that afflicts our society and perhaps solve it once and for all and leave our organizations, our children, and our society a better place without this baggage hanging over them into the future. Thank you very much.